Hello, my friends, and welcome to Time Between Times Storytelling with me, Owen Staton. Today is day 2 of the Festival of Fable, a whole week of new episodes featuring stories and happenings and things that mean a lot to me. All these are being done in support of the Police Rehabilitation Centre at Flint House in Goring-on-Thames. There will be a link in the show notes where you can donate to the Just Giving page I've put together for that very purpose. It's all about helping people who have been through traumatic times get better and remember who they really are. Because it's only when you seek treatment, it's only when you put yourself out there and say, I need help, that these things get better. And they will get better, I promise you. Anyone who's going through hard times, please remember, my friends, the sun will always shine tomorrow. Thank you for joining me here once again at the fire pit at the heart of the forest. Now, today's tale isn't a tale as such. It's just a happening that had a huge influence on my life many years ago. I can clearly remember it. I was sat on a carpet in my parents' house. I can remember the carpet. It was the 1970s, you'll have to forgive me, but it had these patterns and squares and colours that had no place in any other decade other than the 1970s, and any who are listening to this who lived at that time will know exactly what I am talking about. But anyway, I was sat cross-legged on the carpet. In my hands were my Star Wars figures. I had been lucky enough to have a few of those the Christmas before, and I would play with them for hours on end as my parents watched the television. It was a huge, bulky television that sat in a shelf embedded in the wall, if you can imagine such a thing. It had 4 buttons, 4 channels, and each button you pressed it would go with a big click as you swapped from channel to channel. Something happened and I looked up at the television set. There was a vision of woodland that I could tell was far away. These were not the woods of Wales, all of them with a dark autumnal brown hue. The camera seemed flickering and moving back and forth quickly, so we could not focus on anything. I wondered what this could be. My father seemed to be watching it, half looking into the newspaper, half turning to the television. And then suddenly, the camera seemed to stop, the camera seemed to focus, the camera seemed to zoom in on something like nothing I have ever seen before. For there in the centre of the frame, in this woodland far away, walked a figure from another world. This figure's strange gait made its way from the left to the right of the screen, and suddenly it turned a strange movement and looked directly at the camera. I was in awe of this. There was no sound, just the buzz of an old cine camera whirring round and round, but I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck stand on end. I could feel my blood chill. I asked my dad, "What is that?" And he turned to me and said, "My boy, they say that's Bigfoot." I could not believe it. Something I had only read about was now on my television screen. It walked away slowly into the woods and vanished, but remained in my life ever since. Was it real? We don't know. Was it somebody in a suit? Maybe, but it has never been proved. And the film, now called the Patterson Gimlin Film, has never been disproven. Despite how many people step forward claiming to be the man in the suit, no matter how many people who claim to see a zipper or a button on the video, it is still seen by many people to be the definitive version of what Bigfoot is. And whether you believe in these things or not, it's important to remember that having myths, having legends, having stories, having things that live beyond the twilight is so important to keep your imagination alive and to keep your belief in tales and myths and legends ticking over so that they are always part of your life. So join me, my friends, as we take a walk in the woods and explore the film made by Roger Patterson all those years ago in 1967. But first, we can't just sit here and listen to stories. We have to go somewhere special. Close your eyes if it's safe to do so. Take a few deep breaths. Imagine yourself walking out of the front door of your house. The weather is glorious, the winter is long gone, the summer stretches in front of you like a never-ending story. You walk towards the forest. The trees reach up to the sky. Every single one of them has a story to tell. When you place your hand on the trunk of the tree, you can feel the energy that has gone on for centuries, but you step into that forest. And where the air was warm, it now becomes cool, for you are on the forest path, past the old mossy tower, stepping over the babbling brook. Suddenly you see a figure out of the corner of vision, something that flits through the trees, something huge, but quiet and stealthy. You rush forward quickly, and there you come to the fire pit at the heart of the forest. Your friends have gathered once more. You can feel the warmth of the fire. You feel the love in their hugs. You feel like this is the place you truly belong. You sit down and look at the sky. You see the sun and the moon are sharing the same sky. For now is the time between times, the time when it's neither night nor day, but the sun has gone and the sky is grey. The time when the veil between our world and the fairy world grows wafer thin. So thin that for a moment, and just a few moments, we can reach into their realm and they can reach into ours. You see, now is the time that people see lights in the sky. Now is the time that people see the Tylwyth Teg. Now is the time that people see ghosts. Now is the time that beasts from story of legend of long ago walk into vision for just a few moments and leave with us a feeling that will last a lifetime. The storyteller stands and begins his tale. Long ago and far away, on the 20th of October 1967, two horsemen made their way through the thick forest near Bluff Creek in Northern California. They were Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin, and they were looking for something that had never been found. Roger had spent much of his life trying to find the creature called Bigfoot, Sasquatch, a creature of legend that walks the forests of America, or so he thought. Many tales had been told over the years of this great ape, this creature that would peer in through the windows of log cabins, that would leave great footprints that followed the paths into the forest. Few had seen it, but many knew its stories. Roger had already written a book which he wrote himself, he financed himself, and he called it Do Abominable Snowmen of America Really Exist? In it he had placed drawings of what he felt this creature looked like. In it he had placed newspaper cuttings of sightings that had happened before. But this was his last chance. This was his last opportunity to try and see the beast for himself. The sun was shining on this late autumn day. The leaves had fallen and were like a carpet. Here in Bluff Creek there had been a flood a few years before, and the water had washed through this valley, causing much debris to raise upon the paths. Roger and Bob made their way through the area, each riding their horses. Roger had a camera he had hired for just such opportunities, just in case they saw something. It was about 1:30 in the afternoon. They had planned to be out until about 4 before returning to their camp, which was now about 3 miles away. When they turned a corner and saw the one thing they wanted to see, but it was also the last thing they expected to see. For there, leaning down with a hand in the creek, was a Sasquatch. A creature Roger described as being about 7 foot tall, covered in long brown hair. It was obviously female because you could see its breasts. Roger's horse reared up, causing him to fall, his leg being caught in the stirrup. He hung there, calling out to Bob to help him. Bob Gimlin tried to control his horse as the creature stood up, stared at them with disdain, and just turned and slowly started to walk away into the forest. Roger's horse spun round and round, and then he managed to disentangle himself from the stirrup and fell to the ground with a bang. All the wind was knocked out of him. He reached up for the saddlebag and pulled out the camera and started to run. The creature walked with a coolness that was not of this world. Roger was terrified. What would happen if he actually caught the creature? What would happen if it turned around and decided that it did not want to be filmed? He tried to play and get the camera to work and failed on a number of occasions, and then heard it whir into life. He ran to get a good shot of the creature and then lay down with the camera pointing straight ahead, and there, right in the centre of his frame, was the film that has been studied almost as many times as the Zeebrugge film, which filmed the assassination of JFK. There it was in bright Technicolor. A creature from another planet, another veil, another story that walked amongst us for a short period of time. Roger watched as the creature turned at him and looked at him with utter disdain, but never losing her calmness for a second. He just watched it walk into the forest, and out of reality and into myth. Bob galloped after it with his gun ready. But he and Roger had made a pact not to shoot anything they found. He followed it for a little while before losing it in the brush, and returned to Roger, for he suddenly feared what if there were others around, and Roger had obviously been hurt with his fall from the horse. When they gathered together, they found a line of footprints following the tracks that the creature had taken, and they returned to bring plaster to measure the feet. Only days later, the world was introduced to the Patterson Gimlin film, and its subject, the creature they named Patty. A clearer vision of this mythical beast that anyone would hope to see, and the creature that has become the definitive image of Bigfoot for years since. That striding, loping walk, that turn with a look of disdain. That creature that might be nothing, but also might be everything. I will never forget the first time I watched that film. It is embedded on my mind, every single frame of it, as it walks through that forested landscape. It has so much influence on me whether you believe in the creature or not. It's the story that counts. And that story that happened to Roger Patterson and Bob Gimlin all those years ago is as fresh today as it ever was. A few short years after it, Roger sadly passed away. But Bob is still alive, and after many years of not speaking about the incident, now talks openly about the encounter that they had in Bluff Creek all those years ago, and has never deviated from his story about how he believes how real it was. And that, my friends, is the tale of the Patterson Gimlin film. One of the most influential films that I have ever seen, and one that makes me the storyteller I am today. I hope you are enjoying these series of short stories that you will have all week. Please do not forget, if you can donate something to the Just Giving page, I would be very, very grateful. Always stride forward, my friends, like Patty in the film, with verve, with gusto, with pride in everything you do. Some people will believe in you, and some people won't. But as long as you do, then you can be the person who you want to be. Thank you ever so much for listening. My name is Owen Staton. You can find more information about me at welshstoryteller.com. You can become one of my Patreon followers at patreon.com/Owen Staton 7. Please share the podcast with friends who may be interested, and leave a review if you feel that is what you want to do. Take care, my friends. Nostar. And I will speak to you again tomorrow with another tale to tell.